I had a little bit of a rant late last week about the story that On3 Sports published, as they were ramping up towards the Jackson Cantwell decision. And it really felt like the story was fed to them by the Georgia staff. Like, hey, Georgia, we commonly get guys to commit here on a Georgia discount, that we don't overpay. We don't pay highly in NIL. And if you choose somewhere else, you're doing it for the money. And it was Pete Nakos of On3 who wrote that story. So that narrative was out there. And I was surprised, and this shows me how aware Jackson Cantwell is of everything being written about him in the media, because he was being interviewed after he announced Miami yesterday, and he openly fought back against that narrative that it was all about money for him. He even mentioned Pete Nakos of On3 by name, pushing out that narrative. And listen, Brian, I'm not stupid. I'm not naive. I'm not going to pretend, and you mentioned it earlier, he was going to be a millionaire wherever he went. So I'm not going to pretend that money was not a component here, and I'm not going to pretend Miami isn't paying him well, because I'm sure they will be. But if we're going to pretend that the number one player in the country is going to choose somewhere just for money, not for the offensive line coaching you get from Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal, not for the proven development you're going to get and the comfort you're going to get at Miami, like it's ridiculous to say he would risk his career just for an extra bag.
Yeah, I read part of it, and I'm going to go through and look at it again after the show because I just think it's kind of funny. If you've met him, you would know the chances of that being his primary are about zero. He's the biggest all shucks kid you're ever going to meet. He's pretty basic, and I know he's massive. Like when I met him, like, holy cow, he's that big. He's 6'7.5", 325, give or take, and he's not sloppy. He's a very unique human being. So for a kid like that to be grounded is rare. But the teams that he had involved, I mean, they all had NIL money. Like his home state, I thought at one point he'd go to Missouri because they have that in-state deal with and all that. But he decided he wanted to leave. Wherever he went, he was going to get cash. Michigan was involved. Miami's involved. Georgia, like all these schools have money. But he was never going to pick that as the only factor. I'd imagine Oregon would be as good a bet as anywhere if that was the case, because they've got Phil Knight as their primary booster. But he decided not to go to Oregon. So again, to each their own. And there's, this is clickbait and this is just pure speculation all combined into one because he's such a big name. Jackson Cantwell is going to Miami because he wants to.
I got to hire like one of these Georgia beat writers to help me with my taxes next year, because they've all become financial experts. And my CPA literally is retiring December 31st. So if one of these Georgia insiders wants to help me with my taxes next year, I would appreciate the help.